Hey guys, back to read a little bit more of our story Thieves. Hope you guys are enjoying it and having a good day. Um, Chapter 5. Owen stared at Bethany across the cafeteria, an empty feeling in his stomach. It wasn't entirely a trick. Honestly, there was a spell in the Magister's spell book that might help her find her father, and after learning that Bethany's father was missing, Owen really did want to help. It just felt wrong, though, to use that as an excuse to get him into the book, even if all he wanted to do was perform an amazing, heroic, life saving, awesome act of goodness. Even if this was clearly the thing he'd been meant to do with his life, saving the Magister. Maybe he should just tell her the truth. He knew that Bethany would never go for it since he'd be changing the story, and that seemed to freak her out more than anything other than learning magic, at least. But then he wouldn't feel so guilty, and besides, what did he have to lose, since she wasn't taking him anyways? Owen glanced over at her long reddish brown hair, and wondered who her father might actually be. Was it someone famous like Sherlock Holmes? James Bond? He came from books too, didn't he? Or maybe someone like Gandalf. The wizard seemed kind of old to be someone's father, though. Grandfather, sure. But father? Maybe not. Or maybe it was some character from one of those romantic books that people were always checking out, but trying to hide the covers from Owen at the counter like they were embarrassed. That seemed to be like a possibility, considering her mother had fallen in love with her father by reading about him. Who did that? Who fell in love with a character in a book? Whoever Bethany's father was, maybe Owen could still help. Not by jumping into the books with her, but by reading and keeping an eye out. That was what he should do. Tell her the truth. That he really wanted to go into Keele Nomanfoot in the end of everything, to save the Magister, then say how he was sorry, and offer to help her find her father to make up for it. He stood up just to do that, only to notice that Bethany had disappeared from the cafeteria. But she had left something at her table, the book she'd been reading. He walked over, making sure no one was watching him, too, suspiciously, then grabbed the book. Keele Nomanfoot Magic Thief, the first book in the series? And stuck inside like a bookmark was a note. I'm in. Bethany. What? She was in? Owen's eyes widened and he began to shake. He quickly sat down so no one would see his trembling, but he couldn't stop the grinning. It felt like the smile was bigger than his face, but he didn't even care. They were going to save the Magister. Everyone in this cafeteria, everyone in cafeterias all over the world would read the book, see Owen's name, and watch him save Keele's magic teacher. Would they throw him parties? Come up to him all shyly to ask for his autograph? Start a national holiday for his birthday and no mail would be delivered because too many postal workers had to celebrate everything about Owen Connors? Or would something really amazing happen? Like he and Keele would become best friends and Keele would ask him for his help now that Dr. Verity had taken care of. Help with what? Owen would ask. Something mind-blowing? Keele would say, and wink. Keele always winked. That was so Keele, especially with his best friends. A small, tiny, minuscule part of Owen decided to be a downer and reminded the rest of him that Bethany knew none of this and was going to be extremely not happy when she found out. That same part suggested that he still apologize and tell her the truth. And the rest of Owen knew that the small part was right. He should. He should. On the other hand, was an apology worth getting? Letting a great man like the Magister die? Of course not. Owen crumbled Bethany's note up, tossed it into the trash, then left the cafeteria to make some plans. Plans to take down a mad scientist, save a master magician, and become a hero to save the entire world. Chapter 6. Owen's bedroom was where books went to die, Bethany realized. Every shelf in the room overflowed with books without covers or with splitting spines, and even every so often, just collections of pages held together with rubber bands. She gestured toward the books, raising an eyebrow, and Owen turned red. My mom brings them home, he said, sitting down on the floor with Keel Nomanfoot and the end of everything in front of him. Whenever a library book gets too beat up to lend out anymore, she gives it to me. So you live in a book graveyard? Bethany said, sitting down across from him. Owen's eyes widened. Ooh, that'd make a fun story. Have you ever been to a graveyard in a book? Like Pet Cemetery or something? No horror books, Bethany said quickly. That's rule number 1. Horror is a good way to get yourself killed. And speaking of rules, let's go over them while we still can back out of this. Bring 'em on, Owen said a bit too loudly. Bethany shushed him. Despite the fact that no one was home, Owen's mother was still at the library, so they weren't exactly going to get caught doing anything they shouldn't be. Still, Bethany half believed her own mother would pop in and yell, "Aha!" at any moment, so the more quiet they could be, the better she'd feel. There are 5 rules total, she whispered, giving Owen an annoyed look. Rule number 1, make no noise, either here or in the book. Quiet is key. Got it, Owen mouthed silently. She rolled her eyes. Rule number 2, no talking to characters, no matter what. Talk to a main character, you might show up in the book, and that's the absolute last thing we want to happen. Even if it doesn't change the story, everyone who ever read the book would see our names. That cannot happen. Owen nodded, but his eyes lit up with excitement in a way that fundamentally disturbed Bethany, so she quickly continued. That brings us to rule number 3. We do not change the story. No way, no how. If we touch something, it goes back exactly the way that we found it. This is the most important rule, except that all the rules are the most important. Do you understand? Sure, but you've eaten chocolate and taken gobstoppers. How did that not change the story? Because they'd never notice a little chocolate missing from a chocolate river or a gobstopper that I took from the gobstopper machine while the Oompa Loompas were teaching the kids a lesson, Bethany said, feeling a little guilty, since she really shouldn't have done either thing. But that had been a really bad day. Anyway, these are my rules for you. If you want to come, you follow them. Got it? Got it, Owen said, nodding again. She gave him a suspicious glance, then grabbed the book. Okay, are we ready? What about the last 2 rules? Bethany wrinkled her nose. I really only had 3, so the last 2 are listen to me at all times and don't do anything crazy. That work? I'll do my best on the last one, he said, and laughed. Bethany stared at him without cracking a smile, and he slowly stopped laughing. Now you've got a chapter where Keel and his teacher aren't around, Bethany asked him. Owen reached over and opened up Keel Nomanfoot and the end of everything to a marked page. Yep, the spell book is just sitting out. Keel's off beyond the edge of the universe where he just found the 6th key, but he hasn't gotten back to existence yet. The Magister is distracted, casting a spell to locate the 7th key. It's the perfect time to sneak in and learn the location spell. No one will ever know. Bethany glanced at the page. It wasn't easy sifting through the past, especially for things deliberately mislaid. The Magister carefully wove 1,011 spells together into an elaborate tapestry, threading them in and out of one another. Some showed his life, or his children's children's, or the school he once ran, or even old enemies. Other spells went back further to the very beginning. The 7th key hadn't been seen since the locking of the source inside the vault of containment. To find the key meant finding the location of those who had been present, which meant only 2, the original president of Quantitarium, Favora Bunsen, and a figure lost to history, the very first magic user. The spells pushed hard against the curtains of time, straining to part them, but something kept him out, something from the very beginning. He banged his fists down. There was no time left. Dr. Verity had an infinite army of multitude of alternate dimensions ready to attack Magisteria, and citizens were being rounded up and jailed for even owning spell books, let alone using the now illegal magic. And if the hints Keel had heard were true, the entire planet might be in even more danger than they'd thought. And all the Magister could do was search desperately for the seventh and the last key, and do what he could to help the boy who was never meant to be. Suddenly, the 910th spell opened a blazing portal, revealing President Bunsen, only much more elderly, recording her memories into a computer of some sort. The Magister gasped. This was it, the first clue to the location of the seventh key, the one most hidden, the one designed to keep any and all from ever opening the vault of containment hidden beneath Quantitarium, and unleashing the greatest power known to all of mankind, the source of magic. Keel would have to know. Over the hills of Magisteria, through the forbidden space separating Quantitarium from the magic planet, and into the cities of science traveled a new spell, searching for Keel. The spell passed beyond Quantitarium's atmosphere, back into the nothingness of space, then beyond even that, to true nothingness, to the end of space itself, to Charm's ship, the scientific method, and then passed to whatever lay beyond everything and into Keel's mind. I hope I'm not disturbing you, the Magister said through the magic, directly into Keel's thoughts, but I found a clue to the seventh key location. You must locate the original computer on the Quantitarium. The original what? Keel thought back. Sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble thinking since I'm beyond the edge of existence. I'm not even really sure that I'm existing myself right now. The Magister smiled to himself. You are thinking, therefore you are existing, he said. Do what you need to, but you must find the very first computer ever created. Listen closely, as this information is of utmost importance. Owen reached over and grabbed the book from her hand before she could turn the page. See, he said, it's the perfect time to sneak in. He'll never even know, because he's doing all kinds of magic and talking to Keel, in and out. 5 minutes. Ready? Ready, Bethany said, inwardly terrified. This was such a bad idea. But maybe things would go better than she expected. Maybe it'd even be fun to do a little magic, and they'd laugh and have a good time. And maybe, probably not, but maybe she'd find that Owen really could be trusted, might even be a friend. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? To have someone to hang out with in books, to talk about things, maybe even help her look for her father. She smiled, strangely optimistic. Could this be the first time in her life where things actually went well? That's all for today. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.